Just 2 years ago, Victor Osimhen was the best striker in the world and wanted by every club in Europe. He had just won the league with Napoli and was worth about 150 million euros.
The man who's led the line all season is the one to get the goal that will win them the Scudetto.
But here's what nobody's talking about. This could be one of the biggest fumbles in football transfer history. Some of the biggest European clubs are still in disbelief, while the biggest club in Turkey are celebrating like they just won the lottery. This level of elite European mistake hasn't been seen in years. Here's what actually went down. Galatasaray somehow managed to snag one of Europe's most lethal strikers for just 75 million euros. Meanwhile, the same player was highly rated by clubs like Chelsea, United, and Bayern just 2 years ago. The Turkish giants even got him on loan first, an option that went completely under the elite club's noses. This matters because European football just lost one of its most complete forwards to a league most fans can't even pronounce correctly.
Super League.
But this story gets much darker. Victor Osimhen was once one of the most feared strikers in all of Europe, a forward who combined incredible pace, devastating strength, and ice-cold finishing. 2 seasons ago, he terrorized Serie A defenders and led Napoli to their first Scudetto in over 3 decades. He looked like the complete package, the type of number 9 every top club was desperate for. But when the time came for that massive European move, something strange happened. The big transfer never came. And the reason why will completely change how you see football transfers forever. Before we dive into this transfer disaster that left 75 million euros on the table, let me ask you this. Do you think European clubs made the biggest mistake of the decade? Or was Osimhen smart to secure the bag in Turkey? Drop your predictions in the comments right now, because what you're about to learn will blow your mind. This story doesn't start in the multi-million-dollar business of transfers in Europe. It starts in the brutal streets of Lagos, Nigeria, where survival isn't guaranteed and dreams seem impossible. Victor James Osimhen was born on December 29, 1998. But here's what really matters. Picture the most desperate situation you can imagine. You're just a child when your mother, the person who held your entire family together, suddenly dies. Your father can't find work. 6 younger siblings are looking to you for hope. Your house is literally falling apart next to a garbage dump where the smell never leaves your clothes. Most kids would break under this pressure. Victor? He grabbed bags of pure water and declared war on poverty. Every single morning, while kids his age were playing video games, Victor was dodging Lagos traffic, chasing after cars in 100-degree heat, getting yelled at by drivers who didn't even want to buy water from a skinny kid with holes in his shoes. Pure water, cold water, that became his battle cry. But here's the detail that makes this story incredible. Every evening, after counting the few bit of cash he made, Victor would find a football, sometimes just rags tied together, and transform that concrete wasteland near his house into the Santiago Bernabeu. Those rusty goalposts barely standing? That's where he learned to finish under pressure. That broken concrete that cut up his bare feet, that's where he developed the balance that would later embarrass Champions League defenders. Football wasn't his hobby, it was his escape plan. Raw talent like this doesn't stay hidden forever though. Word started spreading through Lagos about this water-selling kid who could make a football his passion. Ultimate Strikers Academy noticed first. Not the fanciest place, they didn't have pristine pitches or million-dollar facilities, but they had something more valuable. Coaches who recognized hunger. And Victor's hunger was something different from every other kid they've seen. Most young players played football because they loved it. Victor played like his family's survival depended on it, because it did. Within months, he was embarrassing players 3 years older. His combination of raw speed, surprising strength for his size, and that killer instinct that only comes from real desperation was already setting him apart. Then came the call that changed his life forever. Nigeria Under-17 World Cup squad selection. 2015. Hundreds of talented kids across the entire country competing for maybe 26 spots. Victor Osimhen was just another name on a very long list. What happened next was pure footballing magic. Chile 2015, FIFA U17 World Cup. Nigeria's golden generation was about to announce itself to the entire world, and leading the charge was a teenager who months earlier was selling water for pennies. 10 goals, 7 games, Golden Boot winner. But let me put this in perspective. That's not just impressive for a teenager. That's legendary by any standard. We're talking about performances that had scouts from top European clubs desperately calling label. The final against Mali was the moment everything changed. Nigeria 2-0, both goals scored by Osimhen. As that final whistle blew and he lifted the golden trophy, he wasn't just celebrating a World Cup victory. He was celebrating the exact moment his family's life changed forever. The kid who used to chase cars for coins was now being chased by Europe's biggest clubs. Wolfsburg came calling in 2017. Bundesliga football, his German precision, top-level European competition. For a young man who had never left Nigeria, this was like being launched into outer space. The contract that they offered was more money than his entire family had seen in their lifetime. Victor signed that deal, packed everything he owned into one suitcase, and prepared to conquer Europe. This is where most fairy tales end happily, but real life is in a Disney movie. The Bundesliga hit Victor like a freight train going 200 miles per hour. The pace was ruthless. The physicality was borderline violent. Defenders who had been playing professional football since before he was selling water were specifically targeting him, testing him, trying to break his spirit. And for the first time in his life, Victor looked ordinary. Worse than ordinary, he looked lost. 0 goals in the Bundesliga. For someone whose entire identity was built around finding the back of the net, this was psychological torture. Game after game, sitting on the bench while watching worse players score the goals he was supposed to score. The whispers started getting louder and louder. One tournament wonder. He can't handle European pressure. Send him back to Africa. This is where Victor Osimhen's real character got tested. Rock bottom, complete failure in Germany. Confidence shattered. He had 2 choices. Quit or fight back harder than ever. Most players would have folded. Most would have accepted that maybe European football was too big of a step. But remember, this kid survived Lagos streets. Losing football matches was not going to break him. When Shaliori offered a loan to Belgium in 2018-19 season, people laughed. Belgium, from Bundesliga to Belgian League, people saw that as a step down. But Victor saw it differently. He saw opportunity where others saw failure. 20 goals in 47 games across all competitions. 20 goals. The Victor that terrorized the World Cup was back with a vengeance. But this time, he was stronger, smart, more complete. Every goal was a message to every scout who had written him off. He wasn't done. He was just getting started. French club Lille were paying attention while others were sleeping. This club saw something that everyone else missed. A player who had been tested by failure and emerged stronger. 18 goals in 38 Ligue 1 games. But it wasn't just the quantity, it was the quality. Victor was scoring goals that reminded everyone why he was compared to some of Europe's elite. Powerful headers.
Oh, it's a good header. It's the equalising goal, and it's scored by the danger man, Victor Osimhen.
Thunderous strikes that nearly broke the net. The frightening thing was his evolution. He wasn't just a raw talent from Nigeria anymore. He was becoming tactically sophisticated, learning when to press, when to drop deep, when to make runs that defenders just couldn't track. That Lille season was basically his European football masterclass. And European giants were taking notes. 70 million euros plus add-ons. That's what Napoli paid in 2020 for a player who had failed in Germany, succeeded in Belgium and France, but still hadn't proved himself in a top 5 European league. Napoli wasn't just buying a striker, they were buying hope. The hope of ending a 30-year wait for a league title. But here's what made this transfer brilliant. Napoli understood Victor's story. They weren't just signing his goals, they were signing his hunger, his resilience, his absolute refusal to accept failure. And for these 3 seasons, it looked like a perfect match. 2022-2023, the season that was supposed to define Victor Osimhen's legacy. 26 goals, in Serie A, 31 across all competitions. But the numbers don't tell the real story. The real story was about when these goals came. Crucial goals, title-deciding goals, goals that dragged Napoli across the finish line when everyone expected them to collapse. Every week, teams arrived in Naples with specific plans to stop Osimhen. Double marking, physical intimidation, tactical fouling. They tried everything. Every week, he found them out. His combination of pace that terrified fullbacks, strength that bullied center backs, and finishing that made goalkeepers look like traffic cones was virtually unstoppable. And when Napoli finally won the Scudetto, their first since Diego Maradona, Victor didn't just win a league title. He completed one of football's greatest underdog stories. From Lego's water seller to Serie A champion, from Bundesliga reject to Europe's most wanted player. But here's a crazy stat. Only 1% of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed to the channel. So if you're enjoying this content and want to see more deep dives into football's biggest mysteries, hit that subscribe button. It's free and it helps me bring you more stories like this. Summer 2023. This should have been Victor Osimhen's moment. Manchester United were desperate for a striker after struggling for goals. Chelsea had spent 600 million euros everywhere except the one position they needed. Bayern were planning for life after Lewandowski, and PSG wanted someone who could finally deliver Champions League glory. Every single club had Victor at the top of their wish list. The asking price was steep. Napoli wanted 130 to 150 million euros. But for a 24-year-old coming off a title-winning season, this was still crazy. This was supposed to be the summer Victor joined football's super elite. The summer he moved to Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge, or the Allianz Arena. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. The transfer never happened. Not because big clubs didn't want him. They were practically begging. Not because Victor didn't want to leave. He already mentally moved on from Naples.
Things I'm thinking about, like the black guy and dressed him as a coconut. Like, how, no matter what, whether they were meant for it to be offensive or not, surely you would just think in your mind, we've got a black person. Do we want to cover his body with a coconut?
The transfer collapsed because of something much more sinister. While everyone was focused on transfer fees, the real battle was happening in contract negotiations. Victor wasn't just asking for a transfer. He was demanding wages that would put him among the highest paid players wherever he joined. We're talking 15 to 20 million euros annually. From his perspective, it made sense. He had just delivered Napoli their first league title in over 30 years. He was Serie A's top scorer. He was 24 years old, entering the peak of his powers. This was his one shot at generational wealth. But European clubs had learned harsh lessons about massive striker contracts. Suddenly, what seemed like a simple transfer became an impossible financial equation. In the 2023-24 season, it was supposed to be Napoli's championship defense. Instead, it was an absolute meltdown. Victor kept performing. His individual numbers stayed strong, but the team around him destroyed. The chemistry that had delivered the Scudetto evaporated. Tactics stopped working, and players stopped caring. Napoli finished 10th in the league. 10th! The worst title defense ever. Suddenly, Victor's market value started fluctuating. Not because his ability decreased, but because football narratives were brutal. Questions emerged. Was he a system player? Could he perform without perfect conditions? These weren't fair questions. But in football, perception shapes reality. Here's the brutal part of this story. While Victor was stuck in transfer limbo, European football kept evolving. Manchester United committed to signing Rasmus Højlund. Chelsea developed their attack around different players. And Bayern found solutions that didn't require a 150 million euro investment. The market that had been wide open in 2023 was slowly closing. This is why football's so unforgiving. Miss your window, it might never open again. Not because you weren't good enough, but because clubs adapt. They find alternatives. They move on. But he finally found his move. In September of 2024, while everyone expected Victor to finally get his European move or go to Saudi Arabia for millions, a third option emerged from nowhere: Galatasaray. Turkey wasn't on anyone's transfer radar. The Turkish league wasn't considered a destination for players of Victor's caliber. But Galatasaray had something European clubs couldn't offer: immediate solutions and genuine appreciation. They structured a loan deal that worked for everyone. Victor got substantial wages, and most importantly, he felt wanted after months of being treated badly by Napoli. But he didn't just adapt to Turkish football, he completely dominated it. League top scorer, domestic double winner, goals that reminded everyone why he was so good. He started to be confident, dangerous again, playing with the same joy that he missed during those final Napoli months. Galatasaray fans celebrated him like he was a superstar. They sung his name, created banners, and treated him like football royalty. After years of transfer speculation and uncertainty, Victor finally felt at home. Then the moment came that would define his entire career. Galatasaray triggered the permanent option, 4-year contract, 75 million euro transfer fee, and 15 to 18 million in annual wages. This was Victor's ultimate crossroads. European clubs were still looking at his situation, but they weren't offering the same financial guarantees. Saudi Arabia remained an option, but football there felt like retirement. Galatasaray offered the perfect combination: serious money and serious football in a league where he could be the undisputed king. The decision seemed obvious, but it came at a cost of everything. By signing permanently with Galatasaray, he essentially closed the door on European elite football. Not because he chose poorly, but because of how football works. Once you've committed to a 4-year deal in Turkey, convincing clubs like Real Madrid or Bayern Munich to pay massive transfer fees becomes nearly impossible, especially at the age he is. European clubs have moved on. They found other solutions. The transfer market that had once revolved around Victor Osimhen was now focused on younger, cheaper options. But European clubs lost out on one of the most complete strikers of a generation. Victor Osimhen is still the same player who terrorized Serie A and the Champions League. He's still got that devastating pace that leaves defenders grasping in the air. Still has that predatory finishing in the box that turns half chances into creative goals. The difference is that he's now doing this in Istanbul instead of Manchester, London, or Munich. But this transfer saga represents something bigger than just one player's decision. It shows how European football's obsession with recency bias can cause them to miss out on generational talent. It demonstrates how quickly narratives can change for a player, from a must-have superstar to an overpriced risk in just 18 months. Most importantly, it proves that football's power dynamics are changing. So here's the question: did Victor Osimhen make the right choice? From a money perspective, absolutely. He's earning elite level wages, his family is set for life, and he's playing football without the crushing pressure that was suffocating him at Napoli. From a legacy perspective, it's more complicated. Football history remembers Champions League winners, Premier League legends, and World Cup heroes. It doesn't typically celebrate Turkish league success, no matter how dominant he can be. Victor chose financial security and personal happiness over potential football immortality. That's not wrong, it's just different. But let's be honest, every football fan can't help without a what if. What if Manchester United has structured their bid differently? What if Chelsea bought a striker sooner? What if Bayern moved faster? Today, he's thriving in Istanbul. Top scorer, fan favorite, trophy winner, welcomed with open arms. By most reasonable measures, this is a massive success story. But football isn't always reasonable. It's a sport obsessed with hierarchy, prestige, and competing at the absolute highest level. So let me ask you one final time. Did European football make the biggest transfer mistake of the decade? Did Victor make the right choice by securing the bag in Turkey? Or did he give up on his European dream too early? And here's the real question. If you were in his shoes, coming from being poor, would you risk everything for football prestige? Or would you take the guaranteed money and security? Let me know in the comments. I'll reply to every single one because this debate is far from over. If you like this video, go ahead and check out this other one right here on the Mbappe versus Haaland rivalry. two other strikers with a similar story who could have been the next Messi and Ronaldo.